Hello, everyone. I am Chase Riley with CR Media. This is my friend Seth Haddock. We are here for episode 2. We do have a name. It is called Bad Booking. So wanted to just drop that on you guys today. Wanted to also let you know that if you're new here, this is a weekly show we do about professional wrestling, mixed martial arts, UFC, and sprinkling a little bit of boxing there. Other than that, my name is Chase again, CR Media 1988 at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, and my friend Seth Hackett. He is on social media, barely, a little, maybe.
I don't really do a lot. Might have to start since we're doing this now. We'll see.
Seth, man, I appreciate you not getting scared and running off the first time, doing this with me again.
So we might as well at least do 2 of these,
Yeah, exactly.
That way we got a catalog.
Seth is credited for the name of Bad Booking. He kind of introduced it to me, and I was like, I love it, because we might do a little bit on here. It's such good shit, so we wanted to run with it. So,
well, it came to mind mainly because we have a lot of friends that at any moment that they hear us talking about wrestling, we tend to shit on a lot of things in a way. We kind of try to reel that in a little bit, but we have been asked many times why we even watch wrestling, because it seems like we hate it, and half the time we do. So I just thought that the name fit and figured I'd throw it out there, and it stuck. So here we are.
Yep. So obviously last week we talked about the Royal Rumble. If you guys did not see on social media, I shared a quick 30-second clip of Seth giving his Royal Rumble prediction that Bobby Lashley would win, and then Lesnar would enter the Rumble and win the Rumble. and it came to fruition.
It just felt the most WWE thing that could possibly happen. So I kind of ran with that, and they did it. So somebody somewhere watched the podcast, the one person, and decided, hey, that's not a bad idea. And they went from there.
Yeah. I think the podcast, I think it dropped maybe 8 hours before Rumble. And that's usually about 7 hours and 30 minutes of more time than that WWE likes to book their matches. So
yeah. Well, it's from the scuttlebutt coming out of everything is it seems like they have changed that show multiple times, which isn't a surprise. But when they were, booking that shit, it ended up being 30 million different iterations. So they just happened to land on mine. I got lucky, but we'll see.
So what was your overall feel of Royal Rumble?
I thought there was some good wrestling. I thought the Reigns-Rollins match was actually very good. I thought the finish was awful. I hated it. I got it. I kind of understood why they did it. It seems like they want to do a rematch at some point. But, here we are. They're booking stuff for Elimination Chamber. We got, Goldberg coming back for Reigns. So I don't really know what the direction is, but that's the way it seemed. I didn't love the finish. I thought it just they could have figured out a different way to kind of keep that going. And I don't know. I thought overall the show had good wrestling to it. I thought there was a fun match in the mixed tag, and I thought both Rumble matches were not good. And that was kind of where overall my thoughts. That's kind of where I landed.
So the Bobby Lashley Brock Lesnar match surprised me. I actually enjoyed that match way more than what I thought I would. The swerve at the end was a nice swerve. It wasn't extremely it was predictable that Roman was going to come out and cost Lesnar the match. I did not expect the Heyman turn. That was weird. It wasn't weird. It was good. The Rollins Reigns match, it was good. The ending sucked. My issue with that match was the buildup. The buildup didn't make sense to me. You know, the Shield, the Shield thing, they had hammered and played so much for the past 7 years. And then for Rollins to bring it up and him and Reigns to act like it was a stone that was unturned I felt like it was lazy writing. It was we have to, like, there has to be something with Seth and Roman here, and it's got to be the Shield. When it could have been something else. It didn't have to be the Shield. Because like I said, they had already played that concert, already done the tour, the whole thing. And then now it's like, oh, hey, we're going to re-release this album and act like we haven't done it before. When in fact they did.
Don't you think that the wrinkle they added though was that Roman can't beat Seth? That was kind of the wrinkle I felt like that they kind of like threw in, was like, and I like the Shield stuff. I think you kind of have to play into like their past, even if they've done it before. Like it's part of the story. And I thought Seth coming out to the Shield theme song and coming through the crowd and all that stuff, I thought that was awesome. I thought, honestly, the show like peaked in the first match, and then the finish happened, and then literally the rest of everything kind of fell apart. I thought there was some good stuff, but the booking.
Yeah. So and let me reiterate, like, obviously their history with the Shield is going to get brought up, as it should. I just felt like they acted like with this feud that it was a stone that was unturned, when in fact it had. We had already gone down this road of the Shield and whatnot. They just acted like, Roman had never finished his beef with Seth from turning on them from the Shield. So, like I said, I thought that was kind of lazy writing. The aspect of, Seth saying, hey, you've never beaten me in a big match situation was added to it. Should have been enough. Like I said, the match was really good. Somebody mentioned, I was reading something, and somebody mentioned the pedigree, the spear into the pedigree, like they did in 2016, was a cool spot.
Don't you think it's kind of an odd missed opportunity, though, too, that they didn't? Rollins should have hit Reigns at some point with the dirty deeds. Like, they had mentioned Moxley, they had mentioned like their history, and like they do the Shield bomb through the table, which is cool. Plays back to that stuff. Whatever. He does the pedigree, cool. Plays back into that stuff. If they would have done the dirty deeds, especially like the stuff kind of surrounding the show of like the Impact stuff with the Mickey stuff, which we can get into later, I feel like there would have at least been like a handful of people in that building that, obviously I think everyone would have popped for it, but I also kind of think that like there would have been a handful of people that have been like, oh shit, like they're referencing Moxley again. That seems nuts. Like now the Impact stuff's going on, whatever. I just thought it would have got like a huge pop in the building. It would have been a cool spot to go into it and then play it up, and they just didn't. I was kind of bummed out about that. But I don't know. I thought that was like a missed opportunity in the match. Overall, like I said, I thought the match was great, but other than the finish, but man, how do you do all these callbacks, but you don't hit the dirty deeds at some point? Like that would have been sweet.
Yeah. No, I agree. I didn't think of that, and that would have been a fantastic callback, especially if they were doing the Shield. You know, it could have been a different angle, a different flavor for them to add in, besides just oh man, like I'm mad at you because you hit me in the back with that chair 8 years ago.
Right.
So
Which
um,
I kind of thought that was, I thought it was like it was weirdly kind of a clever thing too, is that whenever they did the finish, whatever, the fans start booing, I think they were booing the finish because it kind of sucked.
yeah,
Also, it was weird. Like Rollins passes out, the ref does the hand, and then the hand lands on the ropes. It's like that just doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
yeah,
So the ref like inadvertently like, shouldn't that be like a DQ on the ref? Like I don't know. I don't know how this works. Like what an idiot. And
yeah.
and then also like I don't know, man. Like I'm not a doctor here, but like dude held that choke on for a while he was passed out. Like probably not good for your health. But then they do the chair shot afterwards, which I thought was kind of smart in a way because like they make Roman go for the multiple chair shots. It's like he's kind of snapped on Seth or whatever, and both these guys are heels, but obviously Rollins was kind of the baby face in the feud in a way. And so it gets the booing back on Reigns instead of it being like, hey, we're booing the finish. Now we're booing Reigns because he's a dick.
Yeah.
That was kind of smart, but also like when you got to book things like that to get the booing off of like how bad the finish was, like that is you're kind of fixing a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll be honest with you, man. I couldn't see anybody intentionally doing that. Like I couldn't see anybody in WWE intentionally doing that.
Doing the chair shots.
Yeah, to take the heat off of the finish of the match and to put it back on Roman. I
It's possible. I mean, I just that was the way that I kind of felt when it happened. It was like, oh, like
yeah,
it's kind of clever to get away from that because again, like the finish sucked. They had to know. Somebody in that building had to know. Like, maybe that was the finish that somebody wanted that was higher up, and they had to go with it. But they had to know, like, hey, this finish doesn't end the feud. That's kind of what we're going with, and it's going to get booed, and it did because everyone wants to see finishes, and that wasn't one. And it was also just kind of not that aspect of the match to me, like wasn't clever. I don't know. That's how I felt. You could be right, but I did like that the first chair shot was kind of a callback to the Shield stuff too.
yeah. Well, and the reason why I bring that up is only because I just don't think that with the jokes we've made about how long it takes for WWE to decide what a finish is going to be, how the event's going to be booked, how the matches are going to be booked. I just can't see somebody putting that much thought into it to say, hey, we know everybody's not going to like this. We know everybody's going to shit on this finish. So let's do something to take away from that real quick. Let's have Roman hit Seth with the chair to put the heat back on him instead of on the end of the match. Kudos to you for thinking that. I just can't see anybody in that gorilla position or prior to gorilla discussing the end of the match going, this is what we're going to do because we know people are going to hate this. Because then my argument would be is, okay, if you know people are going to hate it, why are you going to do it?
I don't know, man. WWE does a lot of things that are baffling, and to me, this was just like one of them.
So, so the other matches on the card, like I said, I enjoyed that match up until the end. I surprisingly enjoyed the Bobby Lashley Lesnar match. Edge and Beth Phoenix and Miz and Maurice was good. It was very entertaining. It was, they had a lot of good spots in it. Maurice looked really good, despite the fact that, she was, she hasn't been a full-time wrestler in, 10 years. So The last time she was a full-time wrestler was when the Divas Championship was around. So I thought she looked fairly good. The women's Royal Rumble, I thought was the better of the two. Now, granted, it still could have, it could have been better. Let's start with the men's Royal Rumble because I don't want to. Because I want to talk about the big surprise in the two big surprises in the women's Royal Rumble. So we'll start with the men's. So the men's Royal Rumble was just so it shouldn't have gone on last. That's how I feel.
Yeah, I'm kind of there with you. It's kind of weird that it went on last to me. Like I get it. The big story is like Brock and what's going on with him and Reigns, and I get that that's what they're pushing. They've been pushing it for a very long time. But like the meat of the match was very boring. I thought it was flat. They had basically, no surprises other than Drew coming back, which was cool. I mean, people thought he was going to be out longer. It's cool that he made it back when he did. And like the middle of the match to me was just like, I mean, good God, dude. It was like mid-Carter after mid-Carter after mid-Carter. And it's like, at no point did I believe any of these guys can win the Rumble. And I mean, like AJ went in first. So I kind of thought, maybe AJ is kind of believable, but like it just seems like that's not the direction that they're going with him. So I didn't believe that. You kind of believe, you believe Drew, maybe Big E, but Big E's been in so much flux since he lost the belt that even that wasn't. And then he lasts under 7 minutes, which is insane. And then obviously, like we'll get into this more later, but the other kind of big surprise, other than I guess Brock, but was Shane. And then he comes in, he throws horrible punches. He fucking outstrikes Riddle, which makes no sense. And then he like gets bounced and botches his elimination. Like, I don't know. It just like the whole match to me was like super flat. They kind of screwed up Orton, I felt like, because like they're in St. Louis, it's his hometown. He got a massive pop. It's like they couldn't have at least like made him come in at like, I don't know, like 11 and have him last until like the last 4 or something just to get like, plus it's Orton. Like he's a big star. It's a big deal. It would have made sense for that to happen. He's very good. And obviously like it's his hometown. He wasn't in for very long. And it just, I don't know, man. It was kind of just like a dud to end the show, which sucks because these things, the Rumble should be easy. And this card in particular, I felt like from top to bottom should have been easy. From top to bottom, it looked like a great card with only maybe a couple matches that might not be fantastic. But like you said, I thought the mixed tag was a lot of fun. I thought that kind of hit in a weird way to me personally. It was kind of a highlight of the show. Just because like I thought it was fun. I didn't expect it to be great, and it was pretty good. And then maybe the women's title match only because you kind of knew what was going to happen. But the rest would have been great. It just wasn't.
The women's championship match, I thought was good. It wasn't the ending I wanted, but it was the ending you knew was going to happen. Dewdrop, Piper Niven. Like I've said, I'm a huge fan of Piper Niven. She was fantastic in NXT UK. And I've mentioned, not to sound like a dick, but the only reason they brought her up to the main roster was to be Eva Marie's fat friend.
Which sucked.
Yeah. So it was nice to see that they were giving her a push, putting her in a title match. It was a good match. I thought she got to showcase herself pretty well against Becky. Becky making the comment about the WrestleMania sign being on fire.
It was funny.
Yeah.
Which like that is like also like, I mean, insane. It's absolutely insane that sign caught on fire twice.
Yeah.
Like it caught on fire. And then like the funny is like I don't know if this is like really what happened or not, but like when the pyro went off for Brock started like laughing. I think because he probably knew, like, what the fuck? Like, that's going to catch fire again. And it did.
Yeah.
And he was just like, whatever, I guess. They're going to do it. They lowered that sign, cleared out a whole section to fix it, and then they just raise it back up and light that son of a bitch on fire again.
Yeah.
What are we doing here? Honestly, highlights of the show to me, Rollins' entrance, that sign catching on fire. That's pretty much it.
So, you know, in the men's rumble, I couldn't agree more. There was so many. You know what I hate? I hate that, and you and I had talked about it in the week. There's no storylines coming out of this rumble. There's nothing. So, and you talked about mid carders. One thing that I hate is if you're gonna put a tag team in the rumble, let's make a story out of it. Have one of those guys eliminate them, and then you can start a story of them going through trials and tribulations as a tag team. Maybe they split up. Maybe they make it through it. Whatever. Figure it the fuck out on the road to WrestleMania. But putting Angelo Dawkins and Montez Ford in here was wasted space. You know, Madcap Moss. Madcap Moss should have walked Baron Corbin out to the ring, and that's it. Madcap Moss shouldn't have been in the Rumble.
Yeah. These things to me should just be easy to book. They should be easy to book. Now,
yeah.
If the match is good or not in itself is one thing. To me, it's completely separate than, like, you should be able to build at least something off these types of matches. The match doesn't even have to be good, because I get it. I'm sure Rumbles and Battle Royals and stuff, I'm sure they're pretty hard to book. And, like, there's going to be parts in it where it's like dudes are just laying around. It's like, whatever. It's an hour long. There's a bunch of dudes in the ring doing whatever. But, like, it shouldn't be that hard to come up with, like, a few spots here or there to, like, build some sort of thing coming out of it, so you feel like you have, like, a fresh thing. And that's the point of the Rumble. The point of the Rumble is we're supposed to leave it with, like, someone who we believe is going to be a star, at least one person. And in both Rumbles, like, you just ended up with, like, I mean, you know, we'll get into it a little bit more, but it's like, it's cool that Ronda's back, and then, like, but then you got the Brock thing on the other side, and it's like, we already know this. We already know that that's what they're going for at Mania, and it's like, it didn't create anything new or fresh or exciting, and I don't know, it just didn't hit.
Yeah, you know, and so, and this is going to be super unpopular, and I've thought about it for days, about saying it and not saying it, but I'm gonna say it. I don't like the Bad Bunny thing. I don't.
What do you mean, just him being in it?
Yeah.
So do you like
the Knoxville thing? Huh?
Do you like the Knoxville thing?
No. I hate the Knoxville thing 10 times more than what I hated the Bad Bunny thing. They keep going back to this Bad Bunny thing. Like, don't get me wrong, like, he looked great at WrestleMania. You know, it's super cool that, you know, that they bring him in every once in a while, wasting a Rumble spot on him. If they hadn't had Johnny Knoxville in, it wouldn't have left a bad taste in my mouth. But because they brought Johnny Knoxville in, and then at 27, here comes Bad Bunny, it's like, why? You know?
Yeah, I kind of see where you're coming from. I mean, the only argument that I have against it is, like, me personally, like, I don't really care about these things.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, I would have rather, like, seen, you know, even like Braun Breaker come in or something, just because he's the champion in NXT. Or
yeah, that, you know, some NXT guys, because you know that there's going to be some NXT guys that are leaving NXT soon. So bringing, you know, letting Tommaso Ciampa come in for a run. Where the hell is Veer? You know,
he's still coming.
Yeah.
Coming. You know, they released a thing, I saw it last night on Twitter. They put, like, and you know, their Twitters, these companies, like, their Twitters just automatically, they're, you know, time set for, like, they release the tweet, whatever, to promote whatever. They sent out a Veer is coming to Raw tweet at 2 a.m. last night. And I don't really understand why that happened, but he's still coming, I guess. And like, I felt like this could have been a spot for that, or even like it was reported that like Corey Graves got cleared. I kind of thought maybe, it'd be like a cool spot. His music hits, he gets up from the announce desk, goes into the Rumble, even if it's only for like a few minutes or whatever.
Yeah, Jerry Lawler used to do that. They were good spots. They were funny. I think JBL's done it a couple of times. It's a good wholesome spot for them to do. Not, you know, not not give this position to a Johnny Knoxville. I get it. Celebrities, Drew Carey had entered the Royal Rumble. I thought that was stupid back then. I was 11 or 12. Yeah, I was 12 years old in 2001 when Drew Carey showed up in the Rumble. I thought that was ridiculous. I thought it was ignorant. But I understand that they do it, and that's fine. But two, I just if they brought Bad Bunny in at number 9 when they brought Johnny Knoxville in, had a couple of good spots with him. God, that would have been a great time. They had Sami Zayn in there. They had Damian Priest. Bad Bunny's got history with Damian Priest. They've got Austin Theory in the ring. There's some good people in there for Bad Bunny to build some chemistry with if they still want to do some stuff with Bad Bunny. But Johnny Knoxville and Bad Bunny, I just as soon as Bad Bunny's music hit, I just rolled my eyes. I was like, "Are you kidding me? 27, here we are wasting a spot on a guy that, a celebrity." Okay.
Yeah. Me personally too, I'm not a big fan, but I get why they do this stuff. I fully understand it. And Bad Bunny, for whatever reason, he's over. He had a good match at Mania or whatever, or solid match. He looked okay. So I get it. And it's kind of one of those things too that I kind of just like look at. Me personally, it's not my thing, but not everything's meant for me.
Yeah. And, because I am full-fledged prepared for, somebody to listen to this and somebody to come, shit on me for shitting on that idea. And that's fine.
Well, I also think you wouldn't have given a shit if the rest of the match was like good. If we got like other surprises and stuff, you'd have been like, who cares? You wouldn't have even probably thought twice about it, really. You just been like, whatever. They put Bad Bunny in the Rumble, who cares? Knoxville was in the Rumble, who cares? We also got these other 5, cool surprises or whatever, and we got like basically none. And so it's like those are the ones that you kind of remember because there's nothing else to really remember. And it's just like, it sucked.
Yeah. So before we address, Bad Bunny came out at 27. Who came out at 28, we will talk about, but I figured we would wait on that part. Number 30 was not surprising. Granted that I've got fortune teller Seth Hackett for me to Miss Cleo over here.
I wish I could do a Jamaican accent, but I can't. If I had it in my arsenal, I'd do it.
Who predicted that Lesnar would enter the Rumble and win? So I was laughing. I was laughing hysterically when Lesnar's music hit. And the crowd in St. Louis hated it. They despised it. Yeah. What'd you think of it?
I'm kind of, I'm at a weird spot with it because like I like Brock a lot. I always have. I understand the issues people have with him. Sometimes I don't even think it's so much him. I just think it's like the booking. They book him obviously like insanely strong. I get it from like the story that they're going for. I understand it, and I kind of think in a weird way they kind of booked themselves into a corner after what they did with Day One and Brock winning that title and being added to that match, and now it's like, okay, what do you do? And then they got here, and then their idea obviously was for Lashley to just take the belt from him, and so I felt like they were kind of in a weird spot because then how do you get? I mean, there's other ways they could have done it. Obviously, you can come up with other ideas, but I just felt like that they booked themselves into like a corner. So from like a storyline aspect, like I don't necessarily like absolutely hate it, but the problem again is that it's still only focusing on that feud. And that's like the highlight feud. And there was probably a million other ways that they could have tried to figure this out. And it probably didn't have to be the Rumble to like showcase that stuff. Because again, I felt like they, those things are supposed to be to elevate guys. And at the end of it, again, you're supposed to kind of have hope that here comes a new guy. Like, for instance, there's a report out there that at one point Riddle was supposed to win the Rumble. It's like, that would have been cool. Like, I'm not the biggest Riddle guy, but like, at least he's new. He's fresh, and like him winning the Rumble would have given people like optimism, just because like something new is happening, and that's the problem with where they're at now. And since they booked it the way that they booked it, which even Lesnar comes out and he just laid waste to everybody. I mean, and it was just done. It was like Lesnar threw everybody out. Which again, I get it. Like you want your big monster to be pissed off, and like it made him seem like, oh, Lesnar's a force. Like he goes after Reigns, like he's obviously like. He's there to dismantle Reigns. Like, he's pissed. So I get it. Also, apparently, the finish was supposed to be slightly different. Him and Drew were supposed to actually do more stuff. They were under, like, a time constraint. I guess they were under, like, a 4-hour limit, and they were close to it. So basically, Brock just had to, like, go, which kind of sucks. But I don't know. I just, like, again, like, for the story of Reigns and Brock, I'm not totally against the idea of it. But to look at like the shows and their booking as like a whole, it did need to be done, and they could have easily probably went into a different direction, and we could have figured out a different way to get to Brock and Reigns. It's just, what they came up with was not as creative as they probably should have been.
Yeah, like I said, when the music hit, he came out. I was laughing hysterically because we had just recorded, the first episode of Bad Booking the night prior. And I laughed when you said it because I said it was the most WWE thing they could do. So when I guess I'm just confused on why they felt the need to have have Lesnar win. Like that was the common thing that I'd seen all over social media, like Wrestle TikTok, Wrestle Twitter. All the fans had collectively agreed that Lesnar didn't have to win the Rumble. Like it didn't do anything for Lesnar, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. I don't think that Lesnar had to win the Rumble. Lesnar could go to SmackDown and say, "Hey, I've got screwed out of my matches with Reigns before. I want to fight Reigns." And just like Reigns didn't want to fight Seth, Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville or whoever the general manager is made the match happen anyways. And that was goofy because Adam Pearce was like, "Oh, because Seth got screwed out of his match at day one, his one-on-one match, we're going to let him fight Roman Reigns." It's bad booking.
It is. And what's I don't know, like even just off the top of my head, like a simple fix could have been like, how about they don't, because they moved Big E to SmackDown, right? And he was just
he's on. They moved to he was on. Or are you talking about? I don't know what he's on. I guess he's on SmackDown. I don't know.
That's how much of a cluster this is. I'm pretty sure they moved him to SmackDown, but whatever. They could have easily done whatever they wanted to do with him, whether they moved him to SmackDown, whether they moved him to Raw. Have him win the Rumble, and then have him be like, "Hey, I'm on Raw. I'm going to challenge for the Raw title or whatever," and just do that. And then Brock lost, and now it's just like, "Hey, Reigns, you don't have an opponent." Or have Brock just win the Elimination Chamber match. And which, they're probably going to do that anyway. And then at least you get a Rumble winner who everybody wanted to win. Everybody, loves E. They want him to be successful. You don't fucking kill him in the Rumble match like they did. Like I said, he was in there for 6 minutes and 37 seconds, which is insane. And you got him, which, clearly Vince just doesn't see him as that level, but whatever. You have him win, and then you can get to the Brock Reigns thing by just having Brock win the Elimination Chamber match, and Reigns doesn't have a challenger at Mania, and then you go from there. It really wasn't that hard. I don't even think that that's like necessarily the best of ideas, but it's probably better than what we got.
Yeah. And, they have this thing where they have Elimination Chamber. So it's like, okay. And I don't want to get too far into like Raw because I plan on talking about like the cluster that is their weekly shows. But the next night on Raw, Bobby Lashley, MVP come out. They talk. Lesnar comes out. And we all know Lesnar gets a rematch. Every champion that loses gets a contract, rematch. Then they say, okay, Lesnar says, I'm gonna challenge Reigns at WrestleMania. And then they announce the Elimination Chamber entrance. They announce that Lesnar's already one of them. After that, MVP throws a fit because that Lesnar is in the Elimination Chamber, and then Bobby tells Lesnar, or MVP tells Lesnar, that he's not getting a rematch. They already announced that he was in the chamber. I don't.
It's weird.
It was a big cluster. I did agree that, like I said, I agreed that Lesnar didn't have to win. He didn't even have to enter in the Royal Rumble. I think it's clear from looking at these 30 guys that they had in the Royal Rumble that they didn't have asses to fill seats.
I don't think they have a direction for, whatever, 90% of the guys on the roster. It's only the main guys. There's, those reports coming out that, the morale's at an all-time low, which come out all the time. But supposedly, like, there's been people within the company saying that, like, the issues are that they only care about the top feuds, which is pretty evident. And then what's even worse is, my understanding is that what's being pitched from Brock, and they're kind of leaning in that direction, is they may go title for title anyway. So
yeah, well, they've talked to, and they've talked about a title unification for some time here. I've seen a lot of people talk about, that's the reason why they slimmed down the roster, was just they're going for one roster, two main shows to showcase their best talent, instead of doing this brand split, which, I know we joked about last week about, how many times are they going to redo the brand split? How many times are they going to, how many times are they going to redraft the roster and then revert back to, everybody's on, there is no brands. Everybody's on the same shows. But it just seems like I had made a joke prior to the Rumble. I made it in like November or January. I was like, well, or November or December. I was like, well, there's no point in watching the Rumble. They don't even have 30 guys to fill it. And it was a joke. I mean, I know they have 30 guys to fill it, but, let's ignore the two celebrities. You've got Brock, you've got adding Brock in and having Brock winning. Because is it because you don't have the talent? Or is it because you just don't want to give the other talent a chance? Like you said, Big E was in there. Big E was my pick to win. I think he should have. Drew McIntyre could have won. He may not have been the popular pick, but Drew McIntyre could have won. Maybe they didn't want to go with Riddle. Okay, fine. Go with,
they even went with like Orton, or I don't know, and they could have went with like even like if they wanted to go really young and build something new, because they've clearly been pushing them on television, is they could have even went with like Austin Theory,
Yeah,
which
Austin
would have been a shock.
Austin Theory's been doing these stupid ass promos with Vince. You know, so why not have Austin Theory win? You know, there's
The
just
issue is that they had options. They clearly wanted to go in a certain direction, and the only thing that they're really keyed in on again is the big stuff, the big feuds. And other than that, I'm not really sure that they care that much.
so speaking of those big feuds, I've seen a lot of pushback from people on social media that Reigns and Lesnar is no different than Cena and Orton 10 years ago and Austin and Rock 20 years ago. Do you feel that way?
Kind of, but I feel like it's probably more like Cena and Orton than Rock Austin. I mean, they wanted to make it. They clearly are like trying to make the comparison because it's like, it's a year. It's year after year. They have some sort of feud brewing with multiple matches and whatever, which is fine. I mean, there's these things. There's many of them, and whatever. It's so I get the comparison. I don't think it's like Austin Rock because I don't think anyone didn't want to see any of the Austin Rock stuff. I think at some point people got pretty tired of Cena Orton. And I think at one point people really, really didn't want to see Reigns do much. And I do think that like this stuff is more fresh, even though I do think they're kind of fumbling the bag a little bit with some of this stuff. I mean, this should have been simple. It should have been easy. The Heyman stuff, like it should be the biggest feud in wrestling. It still is, but I feel like they've hit some bumps along the way. But I get the comparison. I don't really think it's so much Rock Austin because that was awesome every time. Not that Cena Orton wasn't cool, but it had its moments when it was just like, all right, I'm kind of over this. We need something different. And I feel like some people feel about this the same way.
So this is how I feel about it. The reason why I wouldn't make that comparison, calling Reigns and Brock, Rock and Austin, or even Cena and Orton, because one, just history lesson, Cena and Orton should have happened 4 years prior to what it did happen, and they wouldn't do it because they didn't feel that Orton was a big enough star to face Cena, or maybe they didn't want to do it. I don't know what the deal was, but Cena and Orton happened about 3 to 4 years after it should have. With Rock and Austin, it was what we wanted. We wanted to see that. The business, the fans, everything has evolved. You talk about that Attitude Era, and that Attitude Era, like we've mentioned before on here, wrestling will never be what it was 25 years ago. Never. It'll never get that popularity. It'll never, it's never going to be there ever. We've changed. The audience, the audience has evolved, the product has evolved, all that stuff. It's changed forever. With that being said, the majority of wrestling fans don't want to see Brock and Reigns. We do now, to a certain extent, because of how they finally changed Reigns' character. They're 4 years past the buck now on Reigns. They should have done this with Reigns 3 to 4 years ago, but they didn't want to do it. So now, and it would have been entertaining to see then. But now we're getting this crammed down our throats. And it's cool. It's nice. But this is why the brand splits don't work, because instead of focusing on two things, they just want to focus on one. And that's Lesnar and Reigns. There's, it goes back to Reigns didn't have to be in that Royal Rumble, and Lesnar, or not Lesnar, didn't have to be in that Royal Rumble, and Lesnar didn't have to win, and they could have done something else, but they can't. It's their inability to book, I guess.
Yeah,
That just makes it.
I think that they've had, this is an ongoing issue, but they really have an issue booking now, like the mid carders, even though, they have an issue booking the main event stuff. Yeah, just the problem is like the Reigns and Lesnar stuff is cool. In my personal taste, I think this is maybe the best version of it, but I also think that the issue is along the way they've really built nobody else. So once this is done, if whenever, what do we really go to then?
Yeah, exactly. When WrestleMania is over, Lesnar's going to go back to doing his thing. He's going to go chill out, and then what's left for Reigns to conquer? Is Reigns going to run through the roster like he's done the past 2 years?
What I've seen is that the idea is that it's going to be, yes, pretty much, and then the idea is that at next year's Mania,
it's him and Rock.
Him and Rock.
Yeah. And we can get into that, but obviously the big surprise. I don't even want to call it a surprise. The big news coming out of this week has to do with the 28th entry in the Royal Rumble. The best in the world, Shane McMahon.
Punk was in the Rumble?
I'm not talking about CM Punk. I'm not talking about Bryan Danielson.
That's my best.
I'm not even talking about Switchblade Jay White. I am talking about Shane O'Mac. Shane has the title for it. He's not self-proclaimed. He won the best in the world. So
he certainly didn't win the hearts of many over the weekend because that boy gone.
This is a weird story to me, man. Like I know you got the deets. So why don't you break this down, because this is I don't even know what to say about this. It's odd.
So most of this stuff I got directly from the Observer. But the quote that's in there, and it's like one of the first lines in there, is apparently from one of Dave's sources, who said, "Every single story you've heard multiplied many times over. He was unprofessional, the likes of which left Vince McMahon no options but to fire him." This is obviously, that's his baby boy, and he had to let him go. He had to do something crazy. So from what I've read is that apparently he had major disagreements with everybody because they put him on the Rumble matches as a producer. He tried to book himself very strong. He had disagreements with other producers on it, with other wrestlers on it. Namely, he had a bunch of disagreements apparently with Brock Lesnar, who Brock pretty much does what he wants. So Vince sided with Brock on a lot of these issues. Shane was apparently visibly upset about all his ideas getting turned down. He was talking down to people in the back. He basically, the only thing he got in was what we saw, which is he got in the Rumble. He outstruck Riddle for whatever reason, and that was really how he got in. And he also pitched apparently for Rollins to be in the Rumble, even though he lost. Brock did too. But the idea was for Rollins to get in the Rumble because the running idea was that they were going to have some sort of thing at Elimination Chamber. Shane was going to be in that match. Rollins also in that match, and it was going to build towards them having a match at Mania. But that idea, obviously, as with every one of Shane's ideas before that, was struck down also. He wanted to have some sort of spot in the match to build towards it. They had said no. They knew they were going with Lesnar. And Lesnar losing a match and then being in the Rumble later, they didn't want to have two guys do that because it would have overshadowed Brock doing it. Plus, the weird thing is, and this is just WWE, a WWE issue, is that they didn't want Seth in it because he had been choked out. He had been brutalized. They didn't want him just coming in the Rumble and not selling the injuries. But then, of course, the next night on Raw, he's just kind of laughing and in a new weird outfit. And nothing happened. So
he did milk the injuries the next night on Raw. I did see that.
He got hit with 75 chair shots. He should have been straight up dead and in the hospital. Probably shouldn't have been on the next night's show. Whatever. So that's a completely separate issue. So apparently Shane just came in, tried to run the show, tried to basically book himself incredibly strong, and nobody wanted that because he barely works there. And Vince just shot everything down, and apparently he treated everybody pretty poorly. And everyone was very upset about it, and Vince just decided the juice isn't worth the squeeze. So he fired his own son. I'm sure he'll be back at some point. It's Shane. He always does come back. But yeah, that's pretty much from what I read. It's nothing to me. It was nothing too insane, but at the same time, like, what was he doing? I mean, it makes zero sense. To me, it's just a guy overstepping his bounds, even though he's the son of the owner. It's like, brother, like, what are we doing?
So here's my thing, and we kind of touched base on this before the show a little bit. My, I wasn't completely shocked because when I saw that they announced that they had parted ways with Shane McMahon, because they've released over 100 people in less than a year. So when I saw that they wished Shane well in his future endeavors, I wasn't shocked. When I saw the stories come out, I thought, well, this is weird. Sounds like he's got a lot of his booking ideas from his dad. So he should have got a promotion.
Because they were just poor. They
were shit. So I mean, if all those ideas were true, I'm shocked Vince didn't. I'm shocked Vince didn't give him the keys to the kingdom. The only thing that would have shocked me more is if he got a phone call from Nick Khan himself offering him a promotion. I just that everybody's like, well, that's just those are horrible ideas. Thank God that they didn't go with those. Are you kidding me? We're talking about the same guy that
kind of go off what you're saying is like, how about Rollins and Shane at Mania was the running plan, and that sucks.
It does suck.
Like Shane in the Elimination Chamber with an opportunity for a title shot at WrestleMania, that sucks.
He eliminated Matt Riddle, though, man. Of course he deserved. I mean,
like, when I saw it happen, it was just one of those things. It was like, wow, like, are you kidding me? But,
so
they do.
And this is my bitch. My big huge bitch and complaint is all I've seen on Wrestle Talk and like Wrestle TikTok, Wrestle Twitter is fans justifying how shitty Royal Rumble was because of Shane McMahon. And I'm like, this is weird to me. Where the fuck have you all been for the past 3-4 years that we're gonna blame a shitty booked show on one guy that comes in and books one show a year? From my understanding is that Shane does not normally help produce the shows, but Shane likes to throw his hands in at the Royal Rumble.
Well, with this one too, especially apparently from what I read, which is coming from the same stuff. It's coming from Meltzer's Observer. Is that they basically put him on at this because he had produced Royal Rumbles in the past, so obviously they thought it'd be a good idea, and in theory, it is a good idea, and it ended up being the worst idea.
Yeah, it's just weird to me, like when fans get like, I tell everybody, there's a TikTok guy I follow. His name, he goes by Lu Tang. He always does this thing about wrestling fans being fickle. He does all these cool little videos about wrestling fans being fickle. I always say that fans in general are fickle. You see the Chiefs memorabilia behind me. Chiefs fans are fickle. You know, if you're it, people are fickle. But it was just this one just like really grinded my gears, man, because you guys are gonna act like Shane McMahon ruined the Royal Rumble. They're
The Royal Rumble with Shane in it or not would have been as poorly booked as it was, especially because with the reports out that most of Shane's ideas got turned down, if not all of them.
yeah. I
So
mean, Shane entered it. Shane entered at 28, and he was in the Rumble for 5 minutes. The Rumble was a fucking hour long. I mean, there's over 55 minutes of dog shit that happened in that match without Shane being in there. So let's not pretend like Shane McMahon ruined the Royal Rumble.
yeah,
And let's not pretend like the past.
anybody saying that is just they're coming up with excuses.
Yeah. And let's not act like the past 3 or 4 months isn't is from Shane McMahon's bad booking. Like we've watched this all year long.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Anybody saying that's crazy to me. It makes no
The
sense.
only shit on WWE that's getting booked good right now is the Roman stuff. That's the only thing that's getting booked good.
And even
And
that now is getting weird.
yeah, I'm a huge Finn Balor fan. I'm a huge NXT Black and Gold fan. So um, of course, I'm a huge the Demon Finn Balor fan, and they've dog shit on the Demon. They've dog shit on all these guys for Roman all year, but it's the only thing that's made sense is Roman's feuds.
Well, it's because it's all they care about,
Yeah,
and that's pretty evident. Well, other than Rousey now, but
yeah. So that is our next topic is the women's Royal Rumble. The surprise entrance. The biggest surprise entrant was obviously um, was Ronda Rousey. I know it was leaked earlier that day that Ronda was probably going to be in the Rumble, or maybe it was leaked. It might have been leaked the previous day. I can't remember which, but I saw on Fightful Select that they had mentioned that Ronda was confirmed for the Rumble. So it was just bound to happen. Are you shocked she's back?
no, not really. It was like one of those things that like I hadn't really thought too much about. I kind of assumed like when she left, it was like she'll probably be back. I mean, they kind of planted seeds for like a Becky thing. Obviously, her against Charlotte will be a big match. So like there was stuff there, and the Becky stuff, obviously, like I said, it wasn't ever resolved. So I kind of thought like it's possible, but I really wasn't thinking about it. But it was rumored last year. The rumor swirl, and then when it was announced, it was just kind of one of those things that like I don't know. I was just kind of like, oh yeah, like that makes sense. Like that's cool. Like I'm kind of at the time I was like I'm pretty happy she's back. Like she had a pretty good run for being she should have been super green and not taken to it as well as she did in her first run. So when it got announced, I was like, it's pretty. I wasn't super surprised. Like I said, it was just kind of like, oh, that makes a lot of sense.
I was happy about it. I think that she brings a good eyes to the product. She's an extremely popular character. Um, it's when she was around, the women's division was going really good. I think that she can bring that back. Because the women's division has just been, it's been kind of stale for me for since I started picking back up watching WWE. It's been Becky and Charlotte. That's it, Becky and Charlotte.
Yeah,
And so
to start doing a lot like more stuff with like Bianca and stuff, but I'm kind of right there with you.
Yeah. So I was happy that she was coming back. I have seen a lot of stuff on social media of people not happy. People were, and I think they were just piggybacking off of Brock winning. They were like, "Man, Brock wins, Ronda wins. This is not what we wanted. We wanted XYZ to win the men's. We wanted Bianca to win the women's." I just, Bianca's great, and I think that they should push Bianca, but I think that if they haven't done anything with her since SummerSlam, it's just not going to happen right now. And that's not my opinion. Like I said, I think Bianca's great. I think Bianca deserves to be in the main event. I think she deserves to fight for the title. She's over. She's good. I love her, and I love the Street Profits. But like I said, if WWE didn't put her back in the title picture after SummerSlam or have her compete for the title, win the title, have a back and forth feud with Becky, then they're not going to right now. It's going to be a while.
Yeah, I kind of feel that way too, but I do think she's going to have her time. She's so good, and I think they do see something in her. I mean, they've given her like pretty, fairly prominent spots. She lasted in the Rumble for a really long time. It's just like once they figured out that they could bring in Ronda, she wasn't like not going to win.
Yeah.
You can't just not do that. And the big match obviously is like what they're going towards is they're going towards Charlotte, and the key is for the next year is to be Becky, and then make that Mania, jumbo sized. And like I said, Rousey wasn't losing, but again, the same issue with the men's Rumble is it just felt like even after the women's, like it was more fun because there was more surprise entrance, but man, they really just didn't build anything. It was just focused again on the main story, which is now Ronda and Charlotte, and nothing else was really built on it.
Do they have are they unifying the titles? Have we heard any more about them unifying the titles at WrestleMania?
I don't know,
because Brock and Roman points towards that, but I have my reserves about what Becky, Ronda, and Charlotte are headed towards.
I kind of think they're not, but it's weird because again, I've read the pitches that Brock is pushing pretty heavy for it to be title versus title, which makes you believe that it'll be like a unification match. But the women's side, it seems like it's just Rousey and Charlotte. So
I
kind of think that they're not doing that, but I wouldn't doubt if they do like they follow through with the Lesnar stuff and they do the title for title, and basically they do it, and then they end up just like splitting the belts at some point and just going back to what they were, and really the title for title is going to end up being. It didn't need to happen.
Yeah, they have this thing where every single time they do a title unification of some kind, they miss the mark. If you're gonna do a title unification, why not do it at WrestleMania? When they combined the WCW and the WWE Championship, they did it at Vengeance, a December pay-per-view, where Jericho won. They missed the mark. They missed the mark to do it at WrestleMania in Toronto. Why wouldn't they do it then? They did it again when they when they decided to combine the WWE Championship and the World Championship. They had Cena versus Orton in a TLC match instead of WrestleMania 30 in New Orleans and combining the titles then. It feels like they miss the mark on these title unifications all the time. If you're gonna do it at WrestleMania. That's the best time to do it.
I just if I had to make a prediction, if you're asking me straight up, do I think it's going to happen and they're going to unify the titles and we're going to basically one one roster for both shows. I don't think they're doing it. I just don't. I think that the Lesnar Reigns things could be title for title, but I don't think that means that they're like quitting the brand split. I think they're just trying to make that match as massive as they can. And so they're doing that. Now, if you think that's a good idea or a bad idea, that's different. But I don't think they're ending the brand split personally. But it's another one of those things. If they did decide to do that, I wouldn't be surprised. But I don't personally think it's happening.
Yeah. And the reason why I wanted to bring it up is because I just wanted to move into WWE's weekly shows. You and I both message each other during Raw. And I watched NXT. It just seems like these shows are just they're so clustered. They're so unorganized. So I mean, would they benefit to going to ending the brand split and going back to one roster, two shows like they used to have?
Well, I think there's definitely like a benefit to it because, I mean, they do all kinds of weird shit anyway, where they end up bringing guys over from other brands and making excuses why they're on like certain shows when they're not supposed to be there, and like Brock
like the Seth thing with him fighting Roman. It was weird. It was goofy.
Well, you remember, like, I don't even know how long ago that was now, but it was like a couple years ago. They made that like rule where like somebody, like a certain amount of people could like go over to the other show per week. They had like an exemption to like show up.
Yeah.
It's when you're doing shit like that, it's like you might as well just let it be free reign. Like, who cares? Like, granted, the roster was like really massive at the time, but like it's just so stupid. Like, they're keeping the brand split, but like they come up with all these excuses to basically like work around it. It's like all you're doing is causing like more booking problems when like sometimes, like, dude, it's wrestling. Like, it shouldn't be this hard. But they make it super hard, and sometimes they go out of their way to make it that hard. Yeah. So I just think that like the shows feel cluttered because of that, but also they change 100 million things before the show starts, and Vince hates everything, and then the show comes out and nothing makes sense. The continuity of like a lot of these like storylines don't add up, and on top of that, like, people seem pretty disgruntled there, and I don't know, man, it kind of sucks.
I just feel like with the draft, they haven't portioned their rosters the right way. They never do. But I feel like this last time they did, like when they very first did the draft back in 2002, where Flair owned Raw and Vince owned SmackDown, they made it look good on paper. They had Austin and The Undertaker on Raw, and then they had Hulk Hogan and The Rock and Kurt Angle on SmackDown. Well, The Rock wasn't even around. The Rock had already went off to Hollywood right after that. So then you've got Angle and Hogan on SmackDown, and back then the undisputed champ could shift between two shows. So it depended on who the champ was feuding with at the next pay-per-view. So SmackDown had a pretty bolstered roster, but Raw was supposed to be the number one show, and Raw had Stone Cold and The Undertaker, and that was it. And so I felt like every single time they do these brand splits, they don't portion the rosters out well with their stars.
Well, at least like this time, like I mean, I get it. Like, SmackDown's on Fox, they're gonna want to showcase more top end like talent, at least like more like talent who's more global, like Lesnar, like Rousey, like the really really large stars that they translate outside of the wrestling world, the wrestling bubble. So I understand why they do it that way now, but I don't know, man. Sometimes they just like them moving Big E. It's like, why? I mean, they just like do stuff. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. And then they put somebody somewhere, and then they go nowhere with them. It was like what they did whenever, when they had Aleister Black. I mean, it's just stupid stuff. Like they'll run an angle and then they'll just end it, and you'll wonder what the hell happened. And that's why that's a big reason why things feel so cluttered too. Is just like there's no direction, and like it's not one of those things where it's like, oh, maybe this will go somewhere, whatever. It's like you can see it in front of your eyes most of the time. Like it's pretty. This to me is like one of the weirdest eras because like again like you watch some of these like WWE shows and again like you could just see it that like things are playing out in really weird ways that it's like this doesn't even make any sense. It's like I know like you just know that it's going nowhere. A lot of this stuff. And it's like it makes it hard to be like invested, and because like why would you want to be like when they tell you when they do so many things that don't add up and don't lead to anything important, then like how do you get your audience to like care?
Yeah. I man, I'm looking here and just I guess like my final, after discussing it, my final thought is if they're going to do it, you might as well do it. If you're not going to, if we're going to make the comparisons of Reigns and Lesnar being our modern day Rock and Austin, or our modern day, Orton and Cena, then fine. Go down to one roster and showcase that feud on both shows. You've got more time to cluster stuff around. It is what it is. To move on to a show that I thought was good, AEW Dynamite, man. I thought it was a pretty stellar show. What were your thoughts on it?
I rewatched it today, mainly for the main event because, my God, pal, that was a main event for me personally. That they always talk about these things like, these matches end up being like love letters to like wrestling, or like they're Punk does a lot of things where it's like, well, this match is like a love letter to like Bret Hart, and it's like, boy, oh boy, this thing was a love letter to me because that main event was tremendous. The rest of the show, watching it the second time, I was more open-minded with a lot of the stuff. I felt like it was a little forgettable, but a main event that good and that built up, like I feel like it does overshadow a lot of things. But just like briefly, I thought the opening match was great. Mox Wheeler was great. I thought the story was great. They had wrestled once before. Wheeler got crushed. And this match was basically saying like, Wheeler's still not on the level of Mox, but he's gotten better. So the match was longer. It was just a smart thing. I thought the Danielson promo was terrific. I thought he towed the line of being a heel, but saying some things that, he was being a heel, but he also was kind of like saying some stuff where it was like, but he's making a lot of good points. Him teaming up with Mox and running things. It's like, all right, well, we want to see him fight, but shit, if that happened, that'd be fucking sweet too. So why not? So I thought his promo was terrific. He still ripped all the babyface champs because they're, all the champions for the most part are babyfaces currently, at least on the men's side. So he still kind of peppered that in. I thought he did a really good job there. I thought the tag match, the Black King match was good. Or the Black and King versus Pac and Penta, I thought was a good match. They all meshed really well. And then I thought the Archer segment was pretty good. I don't need Dan Lambert on the show as much as he was, but you can't hit on everything. I thought the beatdown was terrific. And I thought the Cole promo kind of hinted at him maybe going after the world title, so I'm into that. And then we can get into the main event in a second because that'll obviously take up a little more time than this. But I thought overall it was a good show. It wasn't their best, but I thought it was good.
Yeah, I fanboy over Dynamite a lot. More than what I probably should. Just because I feel like AEW kind of panders to the fans more than it's more than the opposite company, which I'm for. I don't need I don't need somebody. I don't need a room full of writers who couldn't cut it on ABC daytime soap operas like All My Children and General Hospital, telling me what I should like. So I kind of, like I said, I like AEW Dynamite a lot. This was not their best show, but it wasn't their worst either. I thought the first match was good. You're right. I love that they let Wheeler showcase a little bit more to show that he's getting better. Mox still looks great. I thought Danielson coming out was awesome. I've seen some chitter chatter on the internet, man. A lot of people are actually playing with this idea that Mox and Danielson joined together as a tag team. I don't think it goes there. I think this is setting up for an epic Mox turn, like what he did to Jericho
See that
with the Inner
that was
Circle.
literally my only issue on that segment because I thought it was terrific. I thought Danielson again he brought up a lot of good points. He did a good job of being a heel, but also making some comments where it was like again like, you kind of bringing up some good stuff here.
Yeah.
My only issue is that if they do go in that direction, maybe they think we're so far removed that we don't remember, or some people don't remember. But I don't see them being. AEW normally doesn't do that. They treat fans who pay attention. And it's just it would end up being a lot like the Inner Circle stuff when they try to get Mox, and I don't love that. So
But
I'm
it's
curious to see if they do go in like a different direction with it.
I think it's going to lead to a one-on-one match between Mox and Daniel and Bryan Danielson at Revolution, which
That's
I'm okay
fair.
with.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
fair.
if you want to recycle the hey, join the Inner Circle thing, and I'm not going to join the Inner Circle thing, but do it with Danielson, so we can get a one-on-one match at Revolution. I'm okay with it. No, it's not ideal, but I'm okay with it.
Well, also like if he joins Danielson, then you would think he would have to at least like pseudo be a heel, I guess. And I don't
Yeah.
think you want Mox to be a heel yet. He just came off, there's some real life stuff, and he came back to a massive pop. And I think there's still some juice in him being a babyface for probably a good while.
Yeah. And I feel like good baby faces in the company in professional wrestling are kind of hard to come by nowadays because everybody loves the heels. Everybody loves playing a heel, et cetera, et cetera. So I just feel like good baby faces are hard to come by. So let Mox milk him being a baby face for as long as you can. Because you just don't want 100 guys running around the company all being heels or acting like heels, because then it's just it's imbalanced.
Yeah, I agree with that.
The next segment, I'm pretty sure was the Dan Lambert Brandy Rhodes segment.
It was. I skipped over that by accident. Maybe on purpose, consciously, because I didn't love it. But we'll get into
I like I said before the show, I didn't hate it, I didn't love it, I don't really care. Um, you know, Dan Lambert doesn't do anything for me. Um, Brandy's, I like Brandy Rhodes's promos because Brandy always tries to throw out these one-liners, these cool like clips, and I think it's funny. Brandy's always usually got some hot takes. She name dropped Josh Alexander. She told Ethan the only reason that AEW brought him in was to lure Josh Alexander. I loved that. I thought that was hilarious.
that was it. That was a
Um,
good line.
Lambert, like I mentioned before we were recording, Lambert is I have a love-hate relationship with. He is so fucking annoying, but he's he's almost um a lost item in wrestling, in professional wrestling nowadays, because he has go away heat. I've
It's not
seen
really
Bear.
get like I hate you heat instead of
Yeah,
some guys get heat, but it's like almost like,
yeah,
hey, this dude's trying to be a heel, so we're supposed to boo him. He wants people
yeah.
to genuinely, I think, hate him, and
And
honestly, it does kind of work.
that's what, that was kind of just piggybacking what I said. Of everybody thinks it's cool to be a heel, when the heel wasn't supposed to be that way. And there's two people in the past 15 years that I've seen like that, and that's Baron Corbin and JBL. And before JBL finally got over, in 2004 to 2005, JBL had go the fuck away heat, where it was people would rather throw a glass bottle at your head than listen to you talk on the microphone. Baron Corbin was like that. When Baron Corbin finally started talking, they ruined any hope they had with Baron Corbin. Corbin had like go away heat, like get the fuck out of here heat. And I feel like Dan Lambert,
Get pretty bad for a while. I do remember that.
yeah, and Dan Lambert is the same way. Dan Lambert will come out and he'll do it. He'll take every single dig he can. He'll make jokes about the city. He'll make jokes about your mom. He'll make jokes about your kids. He'll make jokes about whatever just to get a rise out of people. And I think not only does it get a rise out of people, but people are just like, "Yo, shut the fuck up and get out of here, dude." Like I don't want to hear you talk.
Yeah, for me, just like to make it brief, I don't know. I think he's cool in like sprinkles, like you add him to something and he comes in. I would have been cool with him like getting beat up by the Inner Circle when they did that whole thing, and then he gets pinned, and then he's gone for a while and comes back, months down the road or whatever. It's just at this point, it's like I don't need him on every episode. I don't need him twice, which is what we got on Wednesday.
That's
and then like I feel like he's with guys who don't need him. Like why did Paige and Scorpio definitely don't need him? Paige is a fantastic talker, and I don't like Archer probably doesn't even need Jake, but he has Jake, and it's like why does he have both? I mean Archer when he's talked, he's like not bad, and I just don't think. I think the gimmick itself is like hurting the guys around him more than it's helping. He takes front and center too much, and I just don't love it. But that's me.
So the next match, I think after that segment with Brandy and Dan Lambert was the tag team match, House of Black against Death Triangle with two of the members of Death Triangle. I thought that match was good. Obviously, it's weird to see Penta and Pac as a tag team without Phoenix. Phoenix obviously injured, so there was nothing
He's
there.
supposed
But
to be back in like a couple weeks, which is nuts
yeah,
considering how fucked up his arm looked.
yeah, he got lucky that arm wasn't as jacked up as what it looked like when it happened. But Black is massively over in AEW right now. I love everything he's doing. He's also a phenomenal wrestler. Bringing in Brody King just kind of helps. What was weird to me, man, was they've been acting like they're going to tease a third member, and I really thought that Pac was going to turn and join them, and he didn't. The other thing, I really wanted Pac to wrestle the full match with that blindfold on.
Yeah,
It
that was
gave me,
sick though. I like how he opened with it. I mean, obviously, like
yeah.
he doesn't want to like kill himself because he's trying to do a gimmick like where he's wrestling blindfolded, even though
Well,
he's
it's mesh, and he can clearly see through it. It gave me Netflix Daredevil vibes before he got a suit
saw
made.
people saying that like he looked like he came straight out of like Bird Box.
Yeah, that was the other thing I saw too. I saw it gave me Netflix Daredevil vibes before he got the suit made, but people online were like, "Oh, he looks like he came from Bird Box." So
Yeah, I thought that was great. I thought the whole match was great, and I thought it had a lot of action. It'll be interesting to see what they do with Penta now that he got the mist, because maybe he goes back to like it reverts him back to being like evil Penta, where he starts breaking people's arms again. That'd be pretty cool. But we'll see. I still think Julie is joining at some point. The promo they did the week before, they did that video package with him, and it briefly like flashed a picture of her. I don't know if you noticed that in like the black video.
yeah.
So I think she's gonna join at some point. But overall, like Wednesday, I thought the match was really good. All those guys meshed really well. I'm interested to see more Black against Pac. Maybe that ends up being like on Revolution 2. That would be great. Or even if they want to do Phoenix might be back by then. Maybe we get another like tag match against the Lucha Bros or something. That would also be cool. But I kind of like this whole thing. I like where they're going with it.
So after that, they did the women's match. Ruby Soho, Nyla Rose. The finish was cool to me. That was about it to that match. I mean, it was a decent match. It was nothing to write home about. The botch.
The finish. People thought it was botched, and it wasn't.
No.
I kind of thought that live, I guess. Like, I just kind of thought like Ruby might have missed or something, but like the way they kind of did it seemed like it went as planned. And then I saw something online where they said that you have to watch Nyla. She held the ropes because in their first match, that's how the finish went, and she lost. So it's kind of like she scouted it. And I don't think the announcers maybe did a good enough job of kind of drawing that to everyone's attention. But once I rewatched it, that's a really cool finish. I'm always a mark for like, doing stuff like that, adding little things to where it's like the opponents have done like their homework and it plays into like a finish or a spot or something. I always love that little type stuff.
And then after that was the Adam Page thing with, Lance Archer. We got Dan Lambert for a second time, which was stupid. I'm not really sure why Dan Lambert came out in support of Archer.
We did it a couple weeks ago, right? He like came out and he was kind of with him, and it was kind of like, why? Because they had like a thing like a while back where Archer like talk shit. I can't remember exactly, but they had some issue, and now he's like with him, which I kind of get because like the episode when he kind of joined him in a weird way, like Lambert just like brought up like, hey dude, like why aren't you challenging for the belt? And Archer was kind of like, I hate this dude, but like that's a pretty good fucking point. Like, I'm huge. Like, why don't I challenge for the title? And then he like attacked Hangman. And then last night he's like kind of with him, but it's not really explained like why he would want that.
Yeah. So, I thought it was a good segment to make, Archer look strong. So Page can kick
I thought the beatdown was great. I thought the beatdown was fantastic. I think it sets up the match. We needed it because like this match really doesn't have a lot of heat going into the match. I don't think that created something, and I thought both guys are great in that portion of it. It's just the beginning, the Dan Lambert stuff. It's like I don't care.
It was just a reminder, like, hey, Lance Archer's super strong, and it's going to work really well because Page is going to kick his fucking ass in that Texas.
But I do like that they've done a couple little things to beat down, making it a Texas death match, which is becoming like Archer's match. At least like they're kind of trying to make it seem like, in a way, it's like an away game for Page, but he's going to win.
Yeah, and so then the main event. I loved this main event. I saw a lot of flack online. I saw a lot of flack online about the restart. I don't give two shits about that restart because they restarted it.
Looking like, pal.
Yeah, if that match happened in a different company, then there is no restart. It ends like that.
Well, and me personally, I think that, and I don't know, this could just be me, but my feelings on the restart was, and I saw the stuff that they basically kind of structured this match like an old Punk Jimmy Rave match, which I've never seen, but it's an old ROH match. People said it was basically, I saw a couple people actually in real time on Twitter say they're going to restart the match because this is Punk Rave. And this is what they've been doing. This is how that whole match was structured, which again, I have never seen that match, but that's what I saw. I thought, looking back, that I thought what they were trying to do was to make you believe after the restart that there was no possible way after that finish originally happened that MJF would win.
Yeah.
No way that he would win because they already did the screwy finish once and he got caught. And it's like, okay, well, he doesn't have the bag of tricks. And that's also like, it plays in the end where, Wardlow comes out, we assume the turn. So we're like, all right, he's, MJF is screwed now. And then when he won, it made the shock of him beating Punk in Chicago even more. Also, I thought The restart, if you rewatch it, it's so beautifully done because I think, for the most part, I think in AEW what they do is like when a guy puts a guy in like a sleeper hold or a submission, they do the hand drop one time and it's over. They do it just like they do, they kind of do in like MMA in a way. They obviously don't do the dramatic hand drop, but they check, and if he's out, he's out. So they do the one hand drop. So they do the one, and then they go to the old-fashioned way where they count it. They're doing the count to 3. So it makes you believe right away, well, it's going to do the 1 drop, the 2 drop, and the 3 is going to go halfway, and he's going to catch it, and Punk's going to be alive. So when they drop it on the 3rd, it's like, oh, shit, he passed out. Like, what just happened? And also, another beautiful thing, which this is just a complete credit to Punk, and it's this type of shit that is the exact reason why I love wrestling. It's stupid, but I love it. So MJF does the tape spot, right, where he goes to choke him with the tape. And if you notice, MJF goes real high with the tape because he's obviously making sure this whole building is going to see what's going on. So he goes high with the tape out of the corner and puts it on Punk's neck, then puts the sleeper on, and it's supposed to be under the arm. Well, what I loved, and a lot of guys don't do this, and I don't understand it. I've never understood it. Punk is pointing at his arm, saying this dude has this, something's going on. And he's the only, like, guys normally don't do this. Dudes cheat, and then they're just like, whatever. They don't try to point it out to the ref. But in that moment, he was like telling the ref, hey, something's happening. So Punk doesn't seem stupid. He's trying to alert the ref. So then it also plays into when they go in and he goes to raise MJF's hand and the tape falls. Then Bryce, the ref, has the moment of like, oh, that's what Punk was pointing to. This dude cheated. And also that little thing, when he raises MJF's arm and the tape falls out, MJF looks down at the tape, Bryce looks down at the tape, and then they just do a slow where they look up at each other.
I loved that moment. I loved it.
Perfectly done. And it made everything. And then Punk does the fire up afterwards, where it's like, okay, we're going, like, they just structured that so beautifully to where it was like, wow, MJF won. And then it was just a wild finish with plenty of time left until for the show. So like there was no reason for us to even believe that match was over. But it happened, and then you're kind of like, oh shit, maybe it's over. Like, did I forget something? Is there something else booked on this show that I don't remember? Like, what is happening? So they caught me there, and then they catch you with as soon as the restart happens, Punk fires up, and you're like, oh, they're going into the finish. This is normally how restarts happen, because then they normally go right into the finish, or it's going to be soon, like MJF's now caught off guard. And then they go another 25 minutes. And Punk's selling for the rest of this match, where he sells the arm, and then the second half of the match he's selling the knee because he goes for the dive and he hits the ground, and now the knee's tweaked, and he's selling both. And I just thought like the whole thing was structured so perfectly to make you believe that MJF wouldn't win the match, even though it was probably the smartest booking decision was for MJF to win. Again, he won with shenanigans again, but it puts Punk over. But he elevates MJF to an even higher level because now this is Punk's first loss. He beat him in Chicago. He's going to claim he beat him twice, which is just going to be something.
He already has. I think he already has. I think he tweeted. I think he tweeted out that I beat Punk twice in Chicago.
Yeah, and I'm sure he has. But it also plays into like Punk had to be completely 100% dismantled to lose that match, plus the cheating. So Punk still looks very strong because his knee shot, his arm shot. He can't stand by the end of the match. And even then, MJF still had to cheat to beat him with the ring, which the ring thing, Wardlow coming out, the tease with the turn, which they got to do that soon because it's hotter than ever. People want him to turn. And just like you don't see it live, but then they show the replay of like the smooth handoff where he puts the ring behind his back, MJF grabs it, and then hits him with the ring for the finish. And then if you notice, when Wardlow's on the apron after the match is over, MJF hands the ring back because now he's covering his bases. Before he still had the tape and he screwed up. This one, the ref's not going to raise my hand and I'm not going to have the ring. So he gives it back to Wardlow. Wardlow still looks conflicted. I mean, it was just, to me, it was just such a beautifully like laid out match. Punk hits the Pepsi plunge, which he hasn't hit in 17 years. So he's clearly like at that point he's broken down. He's going for broke. I mean, it was just that's pro wrestling to me is what happened in that main event. That's why I personally watched. I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, they told a story for 45 minutes, and the story was looking predictable, but it wasn't. And the story was just it was beautifully told. They the Pepsi plunge was absolutely dude, I almost screamed like a girl when I saw him do the Pepsi plunge. I was like,
what was funny too is I noticed rewatching it, like Punk had clearly told JR that like he was doing it, and he's like, I haven't done this. Like I went back and looked, and I haven't done this in 17 years. Because as soon as it happens, JR goes, I haven't seen him do that match in 17 years. It's like, well, that's a really oddly specific number. I wonder how he knew that.
Yeah, because he didn't do the Pepsi plunge. He didn't do the Pepsi plunge at OVW. And he damn sure didn't do it when he got called up to the main roster, because there's no way on God's green earth that Paul Levesque would have let him do the pedigree off the top rope.
No, I saw that he legitimately hadn't done it since 2005 in an ROH title match. That was the last time he had done it.
Yeah, so somebody had to have tipped JR off, because JR wasn't watching ROH matches in 2005.
Fuck no.
So I mean, yeah, man, that wrapped up Dynamite, and I was just, I mean, like I said, I saw Alex Pulaski on Fightful with Sean Ross Sapp, and Pulaski about lost it when they did the first finish. He was like, "Oh my god, dude, not again!" and so they got him, and he said he still didn't like it.
Get it to a point, but like for me, because I get it, like it probably didn't need to happen, and a lot of people will see it as like overbooking.
It did,
but I loved it. I thought
it this was a
again. To me, it made me believe like, well, there's absolutely no like Punk. Like they wanted to flip it to make you believe that Punk was gonna win. Well, he's gonna win now.
This was a pay-per-view caliber match that they've built up for months now, and the buildup has been beautiful.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
So it was a pay-per-view caliber match. For them to, it just added more. It added more salt. It added more flavor into this main course meal that we got, and it was fantastic. I had nothing negative to say about it. In fact, like I said, after I very first got done watching it, I was just like in shock. I did a TikTok video breaking down the results of Dynamite. And I had mentioned, hey, we have to see Dan Lambert twice in one show. I don't even fucking care. Like
everything that I thought the show overall was like pretty good, but like honestly, like it was one of those main events on television that it went 40 minutes, and it really does not matter what happened before that, because like this Dynamite will always be remembered for that match. To me, it felt like a moment. It felt like a big moment in the company's history. One of the best moments, one of the best matches they've had on television. And it sucks because like some of the stuff before it was good, and I get that, but like, dude, like we're gonna be remembering this match long down the line for sure.
So that wraps up our wrestling portion. I'm going to be honest with you, man. I'm just going to break down a couple of things here, and then we're going to wrap this up because we are about at an hour and 40 minutes. But they did mention, as far as boxing goes, they mentioned that the welterweight unification match for the WBC and the IBF between Spence and Ugas. I hope I'm saying that right. I'm probably not. But it is
Ugas. Yes, sir.
It is being targeted for April, as well as Tyson Fury and Dylan White. Tyson Fury, going to defend that title, and I don't see any reason why Tyson Fury shouldn't win that. We'll talk closer to that when it gets to April. In UFC news, Saturday, February 12th, which is coming up, Adesanya and Whitaker 2. And Derek Lewis and Tai Tuivasa.
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 Yes, sir. He's that should, the fight's kind of being slept on a little bit, but
I
Tuivasa, he's going to go in as the underdog, but it's a big fight for him. He's ranked 11th. Lewis is 3rd. If Tuivasa wins this fight coming up, I mean, he may be 1 or 2 away from maybe fighting for the belt. And if Lewis wins, I don't know if they really want this, but he could be right there. He's ranked 3rd.
Yeah. I love watching Derek Lewis fights. He's entertaining. He's entertaining in the octagon, just as much as he is on the microphone. So I'm excited for that. Adesanya, like I said, is my favorite fighter right now. And I had mentioned before we started recording that I think Adesanya wins this in dominant fashion.
I think he probably wins too, but I don't want to take anything away from Whitaker. Whitaker's really good. I'm really interested to see because he didn't in the first fight. I'm really interested to see if Whitaker tries to go for takedowns and implement his wrestling a little, earlier. Then, because that's his path to victory to me. I don't think he beats him on the feet. I don't think he can't, but I don't think he will. And I do think Adesanya wins. And, honestly, just from a fan's perspective, I think it's probably what's best because it could set up Adesanya and Usman, which would be interesting. Or, it's just it opens up a lot more bigger things than, if Whitaker beats him, then we're probably looking at a 3rd fight, which, wouldn't be a bad thing either.
And, definitely don't want to overlook this whole thing with I had plans to talk about Fighters Union and Jake Paul bringing it up. We've heard CM Punk talk about it in the past with wrestlers and with fighters. Jake Paul recently brought it up. Pay and everything like that. Mark Hunt, who has been on a rampage for the UFC ever since he lost to Brock Lesnar, and he found out that Brock Lesnar tested positive for PEDs after the fight. Mark Hunt has been on a rampage for the UFC ever since. He has slammed the UFC over Francis's pay, as have a lot of people. Like I said, we can talk about that. That's kind of like a teaser for next week. Don't want to take up too much time on it tonight. But one of the main reasons why I got into UFC on the regular is the Ultimate Fighter. They announced today that the Ultimate Fighter Season 30 will be coached by Pena and Nunes.
Well, that's probably a good call. I mean, we all know that they're going in for a 2nd fight. Nunes deserves it just because her run was so dominant, and she got completely dismantled in the first fight, which, was super surprising. But it makes sense that they're doing this. It'll be interesting to see where Nunes's head is at. I know she had, ironically, she had left Lambert's gym, the American Top Team. She's supposed to be starting her own, and a lot of people think that, maybe this loss because it kind of came out of nowhere. Maybe got in her head. Maybe not. I mean, maybe it kind of relieved her a little bit. I mean, you've heard champions before say that, holding the belt for long periods of time sometimes can become more of a burden than it is, a luxury. And, I'm excited for that. It'll be interesting to see, the build up for that and that fight when it happens because, I think Nunes is probably going to be the favorite again going into that one. And she probably should be, but we'll see. We'll see if Pena's just got her number.
Yeah, I think that I think what we've seen in the past that, I mean, it's like with anything, those dominant teams for after a while, people start to, the business starts to evolve and people start to figure out and, we saw it with Connor. We saw it with Ronda. Nunes was obviously twice the champion that Ronda was. They called her the best female fighter of all time, which she should have. And then she came out and got rocked and you know
Well, and
I think this.
that's the glory of MMA though too. It's different than boxing or whatever. I mean, anybody could get slept, anybody could get beat.
Yeah.
You only wear 3-ounce gloves, buddy. I mean, so she just got beat up, and I mean, this is where things get interesting because we haven't really seen her like that in a very, very long time. She's dominated most people. So this rematch will, obviously it's going to be a test of resolve, and we'll see how she bounces back.
Yeah. I like I said, I'm excited because obviously the finale will end up being those two, and so it'll be a good card. So
There's some good fights on the horizon, really.
yeah, like I said, we spoke a little bit about March's card, and next weekend is the Adesanya and Whitaker fight. So definitely some good ones coming up. Like I said, next week we'll talk a little bit more about the nature of the business and professional wrestling. We'll talk more about fighters and fighter pay and fighter union and Jake Paul leading the front on that next week. And
what a turn! What a turn of events. We'll get into it, but it's just Jake Paul, crazy.
Yeah. Did you see his rap video he made about Dana White?
I haven't seen it yet. I fear the cringe of that thing. So like I just haven't.
It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad.
But I'm sure it's like sort of kind of meant to be bad in a weird way. Like
yeah.
And Dana's an easy target. It's kind of one of those things. Like like I said, we'll get into it more, but it's a little bit of a both sides thing. Like he's obviously fighting for a good thing, but at the same time, like him going against Dana is like, it's still is elevating Jake into it's still keeping him also in the headline. So it's not like he's not
absolutely
getting anything out of this,
Yeah. So that is the plan for next week's show. I'm sure we'll probably have a little bit more. Other than that, appreciate you guys. If you guys do not know, just to kind of break down social media again, you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, TikTok, all under the same marquee, CR Media 1988. Also can find me on YouTube. This is pre-recorded, so you will get this on all of those social medias we talked about. And then I will also upload it on Anchor. Anchor will help me distribute it to Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Amazon Podcasts as well. If you don't want to see my beautiful face, and that's understandable. Even my wife gets tired of seeing it every once in a while. So
Also,
again, man, that's all I got. I would be not good at what I do if I didn't also plug that my friend James Howell and I have a Kansas City Chiefs talk show that we do every Tuesday. We will still be doing it in the off season. It's going to be kind of shifted more into just NFL in general. You can only you can't fill a whole content with just the Chiefs. But we got a lot of off-season content coming. So check that out. You can find that on my socials as well.
I'll come on when the Titans sign Aaron Rodgers. Just so
there you go. There you go. And that's fine. Titans can sign Aaron Rodgers and he can get his ass beat by Pat once a year.
I don't think we play next year.
Yeah.
Actually, we will, I think, because we both won our division, but we'll see.
Yeah.
We own you guys in the regular season. When it matters, we don't talk about that. But
yep.
Regular season games, we figured it out.
So that is it for us. I am going to be doing some editing on this and watch some Rampage and some SmackDown, and look forward to chatting with you all later.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. For Chase Riley with CR Media, this is my friend, my co-host, Seth Hackett. This is Bad Booking. Really good shit.